get here, you sit down to say jambon, Ardennes et melon, and de délices de la mer Quatrille, or any of the other good things on the menu. Then you look around at the setting. The way to describe it is with a Dutchman's favorite word, gezellig. It means pleasurable, comfortable, cozy. Now that you've learned your first Dutch word in a windmill with French food by means of an English car, I'll give you the answers. This gezellige restaurant is called De Dikkert, and with about 450,000 surprising pedal pushers rushing off to see this film, the city is called Amsterdam. It's been said that Amsterdam is built on herring bones because its first prosperity was fished out of the ocean, a prosperity owed to the herring's decision to migrate from the Baltic to the North Sea, and to a Zealand fisherman who discovered a method of curing and packing them for export to a hungry Europe. Soon there was more money than met the eye, and a dam was built across the Amstel River, so the settlers would have an excuse to call their surprising community Amsterdam. In 1300, Amsterdam officially became a city, one in which all non-pedestrian traffic moved along canals. In the 1970s, this was still the best way to get to know surprising Amsterdam. Its golden age was reached in the 17th century, an age when merchants and businessmen rather than titled aristocrats dominated the affairs of what by then had grown into a large seaport and trading center. It was along the stately canals that still ring the heart of Amsterdam that those wealthy men of commerce built their gilded patrician homes in which to live and work in contented elegance, and perhaps unknowingly to provide us with a perfectly preserved setting for the age of Rembrandt.
This is one of the shortest and narrowest canals. Very long, just for rope making, and formerly the rope makers used to live and work here. You can see that the houses are built straight into the water 19 months. Some has 100 canals and 650 bridges. All the canals together are the transport. One of the narrowest alleys from the wide alley, and there's also a very famous Dutch restaurant. We are now going to the right and see now enter the building. No. This is one of the shortest and narrowest canals.
With a good guide and some imagination, a canal boat is a time machine that can trade you an hour and 15 minutes of a day in Amsterdam for over 300 years of her history. For less than $1, it's one of the wisest investments you can make, unless you're buying a perfect blue-white diamond. We're in the diamond factory of Holzhuis & Stolte, where this genius is polishing a full round-cut stone. This cut, we learned, because of its 58 facets, gives a diamond its maximum brilliance and fire. The Dutch are just about the most skilled cutters in the world. After all, Amsterdam's been the center of the diamond trading business for over 200 years now. So if you're about to get engaged or married or even remarried, Amsterdam is also just about the best place in which to buy. Since ancient times, diamonds have captured women's imagination and in turn have inspired men in their pursuit of conquests. Or is it the other way around? When you take church bells, an accordion in the hands of an Amsterdam troubadour like Jan Stolkeman, whom you'll find in a pub like De Wildeman at any surprising hour of the day, and a street organ, some people call them barrel organs, you'll get the three basic sounds of the city. Amsterdam's flea market has been in existence for just about as long as anyone can remember, right near Rembrandt's house off the Waterloo plain. It's open every day of the week except Saturday. Because of a highly developed social conscience in Holland, even fleas get a day off. The flea market thumbs its nose at conventional shopping. But if you need an aspirin in Amsterdam, a gaper may stick out his tongue at you. Gapers, or gappers as the Dutch say, symbolize Moorish boys who wandered around markets with herb doctors and stuck out their tongues to show their good health. It was a kind of 15th century advertisement for the high quality of their master's spices. They became the symbol for apothecaries, and if you hunt for them today, you'll still find them leering out at you over a few drugstores. Finding them is the whole point of the game, a game we call the Great Gaper Hunt. That one doesn't count. This one does, but where we're going isn't exactly a drugstore. However, while we're on medicine, I should mention that the Dutch didn't invent drinking. They just made an invaluable contribution towards bringing the art to its present high state of refinement by inventing gin. Dr. Sylvius, a professor at Leiden University several centuries back, got credit for the invention when he distilled pure alcohol and juniper berries with the hope of producing an inexpensive general-purpose medicine. The medicine in a large variety of flavors is administered to willing patients in the 300-year-old Boats Tavern called De Drie Flesjes, the 3 bottles. This is a proeflokaal, or tasting place, located at number 18 Gravenstraat, just off the Dam Square. The firm of Boats, one of Holland's most esteemed liqueur and gin makers, is a relative newcomer. It didn't start doing business until 1650. Someone told me that the Dole Minas, Holland's version of women's lib, is demanding similar conveniences on the street, with minor modifications. Pub hopping in Amsterdam is like eating peanuts, so let's push on to the next one, the old WF. Never mind, you'll learn what the initials stand for when you get there. At the WF, there's one iron rule. Take the first sip without laying a hand on the glass. After that, it's no holds barred. If you want to break the habit, you can do so nearby in one of the most attractive houses in Amsterdam. It's the home of the Salvation Army, right in the heart of the sailors' quarter. I'm not sure whether the women wailed at the Tower of Tears because their men were spending too much time in this quarter or because they were actually sailing to the New World. But we do know that Henry Hudson sailed past it in 1609 on his way to discover the river that bears his name. St. Nicholas Church is named after the sailor's patron saint, who's also the traditional protector of children. His spirit sailed on ships like the Half Moon to an America that was to adopt him as Santa Claus. When you're in this part of town, don't miss the Montalbaanstoren and look at it from several angles. It's considered to be the city's most perfectly proportioned tower, and it's been an inspiration to artists since Rembrandt's time.
Ik wou dat ik een huis had dat even breed was als de voordeur van mijn meestershuis.
It seems that the wealthy Mr. Tripp overheard his coachman saying, "I wish I had a house even as wide as my master's front door." And so the generous Mr. Tripp built him just that. And speaking of skinny houses, there's one that's not quite as wide as a Volkswagen called the Green Lantern. It doesn't do anything for your waistline, but it claims to be the world's thinnest restaurant. Narrow houses came into being because the real estate taxes of the day were levied according to the width of the building. As a result, stairs are so steep and narrow that the only way furniture can be conveniently brought in and out is by hoists attached to the beams that extend from the gables. At the Fromagerie Grignon, the lift is inside, but for a similar reason. The stairs are too steep to safely carry food to the upstairs dining room, especially do-it-yourself fondue bourguignon, one of the house specialties. This place started out as Amsterdam's first cheese shop and grew in stature, but not size, into a unique restaurant with the atmosphere of someone's comfortable kitchen. It's also a great place to meet the Dutch and the type of surrounding that's conducive to making a people-to-people program a working reality. which brings to mind the Get in Touch with the Dutch program operated by the VVV, Amsterdam's Tourist Association. They'll give you the name and address of a Dutch family to whose home you can drop in for a visit. Downstairs, the Fromagerie Crignon sells more than 100 varieties of cheese in the shop that's been called the Cheese Lovers Clubhouse on the Gravenstraat. They say you can eat out in 15 different languages in Amsterdam and always be understood in English. There's a place called the Leidseplein around which you can have fun in 3 colors at the Golden Coach, the Blue Note, and the famous Black Sheep. Antique shopping is as fascinating an experience here as restaurant and pub hunting. Some of the best antique stores are conveniently located on the Nieuwe Spiegelstraat, directly down from the Rijksmuseum. But you'll find others all over town because this is the antiques capital of Europe. One of the greatest places for antiques, though they're not for sale here, is the place where John Five Flies had a tavern in the year 1627. Now consisting of 5 17th century houses, the Five Flies is the most famous restaurant in Amsterdam and one of the city's more fascinating institutions, along with its owner, Nicholas Kruse.
Human beings are 5 and 7. Your left side, you're 5. Your right
The 250-pound antique collector, gourmet, mathematician, and philosopher who's ever ready to expound on his theory for world peace through higher mathematics is a character that Frans Hals or Jordaens or even Rembrandt would have found to be a perfect and very willing model. It's often been said that Holland has more art per square mile than any other country. At the Rijksmuseum, you can see its proudest collection for 28 cents. Though there are many distractions in this storehouse of some of the finest things ever said with a brush, one thing stands out above all others: the company of Captain Frans Banning Kok and Lieutenant William van Ruitenburg, which the world knows simply as the Night Watch. Rembrandt painted his most famous work during his most affluent period, when he lived in this elegant house on the Breestraat in the heart of the Jewish quarter. It was a section of the city that grew when the Portuguese Jews fled to Amsterdam during the early 1600s. At that time, the focal point of the community's life was the gigantic Portuguese synagogue, one of the largest in the world. The grandfather of the philosopher Spinoza was the head of this community from 1628 on, a community that was to contribute so much to the cultural heritage of Amsterdam for centuries to come. Over 300 years passed between the thoughts of Spinoza and the thoughts of a 14-year-old girl. In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart, she wrote. If I look up into the heavens, I think that it will all come right, that this cruelty too will end, and that peace and tranquility will return again. Words which reflect the more hopeful side of humanity that's been so well nourished in this surprising city on the Amstel, whose 636 bridges span so much more than just her canals. This is a picture of the Dam Square, the heart of Amsterdam, taken with a clean 17mm fisheye lens. What a clean lens is to a photographer, a window is to a Dutchman. Especially when it comes to windows, most of them still believe that cleanliness is next to godliness. All of this reminds me of Amsterdam's Day on the House program. It's free if you're traveling off-season, but any time of the year, this city offers some pretty great travel bargains. Something that's proven by the large number of young people who come here each year, putting the art of economy travel to actual use. All roads, so the Middle Ages said, led to Rome. As Henrik van Loon wrote, we no longer live in the 17th century when all roads traveled by artists, writers, scientists, and statesmen led to Holland. But we do live in a time when some of the best roads leading to a memorable travel experience begin in Amsterdam. Amsterdam is the hub of Europe, where you can have so much fun learning that a city is known by its people, and knowing its people is to understand its atmosphere. How do you learn this? You observe the facets of everyday life. Observing is free, an experience that's on the house. They call this statue Amsterdam Lovable, and it symbolizes the young burghers who ham it up and keep things hopping for their elders. Obviously, the Dutch are devoted to all children. If you want to say it with flowers, here they speak an inexpensive language with a colorful vocabulary. One of the nicest places to learn the language is at the floating market near the Mint Tower, which has been contributing to a Beautify Your Environment campaign for more than 200 years. And since we're in the market for colorful activity, have you heard about the Cheese Express? That's Amsterdam's central station from which the Cheese Express faithfully departs every Friday from May through September. 40 minutes later, for a little over $1 round trip, you're where the action is when it comes to cheese, the town of Alkmaar and its famous market in front of the 16th century Weyhouse. If this recalls stacking ammunition on the deck of a frigate, you may be on the right track. There's a story that the Uruguayan Navy once beat the Argentinian Navy in a battle using old Edam cheese in their cannons. After their victory, they may have celebrated by eating new Edam cheese, washed down with Heineken beer. That's my own theory. Incidentally, this is the natural color of Edam cheese. Only the cheeses for export are colored red, stories of colorful cows notwithstanding. And while we're on stories, there's one that recalls a 200-pound tourist who was so enthralled with the smooth skill of the cheese porters that she persuaded two of them to taxi her to Volendam on one of their hand barrows. The porters gave up, but Volendam is still waiting. Your own visit to Volendam might almost make you think of putting your finger in a dike and all kinds of other quaint tales of storybook Holland. It's an easy side trip from Amsterdam, about 40 minutes. Volendam, costume burgers are around reality, but in Amsterdam, at least, the shape of things has changed, and the burgers have become about the most cosmopolitan people on the continent. It's not at all uncommon to find houses that are a miniature United Nations when it comes to linguistic talents. Usually speaking several languages, Amsterdammers make it so easy for people from almost any place in the world to become absorbed into the everyday routine of the city's life. In turn, they have become so accustomed to the exotic and the international that a Dutch name like Binnenbandhammerstraat is synonymous with Chinatown. And 6 p.m. on the Mint Tower means lifting your spirits in the atmosphere of Spain. Bodega means cellar in Spanish, and around this hour, the Continental Bodega near the Rijksmuseum is probably the most popular place in all of Amsterdam. I guess its unique appeal lies in the combination of wine storage warehouse decor, superb wines and snacks at very reasonable prices, and a clientele that I'd describe as Amsterdam's version of the beautiful people. The Bodega was actually a bicycle parking garage before conversion to a drinking spot. Filled from kegs labeled nutty, medium, dry, doloroso, and amontillado that line the back of the downstairs bar, glasses are parked on still another version of an Amsterdam lift. To keep in step with Amsterdam's international pace, why not follow a Spanish cocktail hour with an Indonesian dinner? Maybe this is what Henry Hudson was really after when he was looking for a passage to the Indies. It's called a rijsttafel, which literally means rice table, but you usually need more than one table to accommodate all of the dishes. Rice is the main character of the meal in name only, because it rapidly takes on the role of supporting actor for a gourmet cast of as many as 20 different dishes. For many people, the 3 red pepper sauces called sambals provide the most unforgettable part of the feast. You light the whole thing with a good Dutch cigar. After a meal like that, the only thing to do if you're still standing is to walk. So try window shopping. Window shopping at night is a safe way to resist the temptation of certain Amsterdam bargains. But when it comes to eating, you're faced with the Bordjeswinkels, the unique Amsterdam sandwich shops which are open till the early morning hours. And since the rice toffel you had is, after all, an Oriental meal, an hour later you may find yourself with a rejuvenated appetite wandering into a place like this. These are also great places for inexpensive, delicious snacks at any hour of the day. Bordjeswinkel, remember that word. Remembering can mean a midnight visit to a sandwich corner at the end of a day, or a canal that hasn't yet awakened at the beginning of a day. It's the personal memory that counts, and the building of memories is one of the best reasons for the whole experience of travel. There even comes a time when memories become reality, and the present a thing to be observed but not participated in. There comes a time when you can watch an entire city from a window on the Amstel. This is the quiet time, when Amsterdam becomes Sunday. I remember the first time I arrived at Amsterdam's new Schiphol airport. I had about 4 hours between flights, so I took a 200-minute, $6 mini tour of a city I'd barely met, but one that I was to get to know rather intimately in the years to come in the making of this film. It's here that I recall the words of one of the great figures of international aviation, a man who did so much to herald in the era of modern transportation, and as one author wrote, a man to rank beside Billy Mitchell, Lindbergh, and all the other heroes of the air. The man was Albert Plesman, founder of KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, and the words were simply, "The air-ocean unites all peoples." I hope you enjoyed this film as much as I enjoyed making it, together with cameraman Kurt Yetmar and assistant cameraman Fred Salif. One more surprise. Even in the jet age era of the 747, you'll find Amsterdam is a place you hate to leave.